If you build it correctly, the Winterfang can get into almost any base, at least if it can reach. But if you build it wrong, you might end up doing 0 damage. Hey everyone, Derpy here, welcome back to another Battle Pirates video. As we get into this, I want to say that this is actually a re-uploaded video. I had a slight math mistake that made one of my specials wrong, so if you're watching this within the first day or two it came out, you probably saw the other one already, so I'll try and keep this pretty quick. This is also, of course, a PvP video, and on all of these I want to say this is not an alliance build. This is not something I've coined 1,000 of and tested 20 million times. These are just my thoughts here, and there are a few things I'm actually leaving out of this. Alright, getting directly into the build, first of all, this is a tier 10.5, or tier 11 ship rather, and has a tier 10.5 thrower. Because of this, some moderators who are named William have said that they actually expect a tier 11 weapon coming out in a few months or an unstated time frame. I would not be surprised if that happens, and the splash screen does say something about a cryo weapon, so if one does come out, I will guess a cryo weapon. So if you're watching this a few months out, there's probably a better weapon to use. Now, first of all, the hull is very powerful and has extremely high deflections. You can only actually be damaged in today's game as of late January 2022 by ballistic and penetrative. So that is interesting. As other tier 11 things come out, I'm sure we will see that change. The hull also does have a negative 32% modifier on all weapons, which means it is a very short range hull, which does give you a hint as of how to stop it. In addition, it does have a negative modifier on corrosive damage to prevent you from using a corrosive build, although I have seen a few people trying it. With that said, the weapons you're going to want to throw on are the ones that came out with this thing, the Wildfire Thrower Mark II. It really is the best option out there. So throw those on there. Now, 5 of these specials that you're going to put on the hull need to be to boost either building damage or radioactive damage. For these special number 6, we actually need to compare and check if reload will end up helping or not. Now, the first special, which is going to boost radioactive damage, is actually going to be an engine, which is a little bit interesting, but that 10% really just does help out a ton, the Scorcher Turbine. If you don't have this, the regular Onslaught engine will be your best bet. Some people don't like giving up all the combat speed. I think it's perfectly fine. You spend so much time shooting at portals and so little time actually moving. I don't really think you need more combat speed, and I'll make that decision a few times in this video. The next one you're going to equip is the best building damage special in the game for all damage types on Conquerors, and that is Invasion Scanner 2. This thing is just a hair better than the Siege targeting 4 against buildings, and significantly better against ships. It also does give you tactical field resistance, which is another bonus. This thing is limited, but it is definitely great to use, and you want every ounce of building damage you can possibly get. Because, and as I put at the very start of the video, if you build this wrong and you're sitting inside a Badger Aura against a portal with a radioactive armor plate on it, you might not be killing it, and you'll take a very, very long time to do so. The next special slot is another building damage special, and on most Conqueror ships, it would be the Conquest Battery. I, however, am not going to use that, and I'm going to recommend something different, which I've actually seen very few people doing. I'm going to go for the Siege Battery 4. Now, this has 93% compared to 80% building damage, but does not give you any combat speed, which is interesting to say the least. Again, I find you spend so much time shooting at portals and so little time moving, you don't need this. But if you would like more combat speed, you're more than welcome to use the Conquest Battery. Just come hit my base and have fun, well, shooting at portals while standing still. Alright, the next special I'm throwing on here is going to be another radioactive damage special rather, and this is a tier 7 Conqueror special that came out with the ship, and I just have to remember where to find it. This is going to be the Radioactive Ignition, which does give you 50% radioactive damage. If a better one does exist in the future, you'll want to update that, but this is pretty good. Now, the next one I'm putting on is again going to make a little bit of people a little bit upset, and this is actually going to be the Radioactive Force. Now, the Radioactive Force lowers your already very short range. I don't think this is a problem because you already can't reach against several things. And it doesn't really matter for things like portals. You can always get to the portal, always park right in front of it, right here, and shoot at it. If people want to put 4 walls or 4 land tiles in the way rather, so that you're not going to be able to reach, using this instead is not going to make a single bit of difference at all. Radioactive damage is so important, I will put on more damage at the expense of range. If you're a little bit conflicted, just use the radioactive upgrade instead, and that will give you just 10% instead of 15. Again, you're welcome to hit my base, you'll just do a little bit less damage than my fleet. Now, for this last special, in my original video, I did actually recommend people use radioactive upgrade for even more damage instead of a plus 83% radioactive reload special, the insulated charge capacitor. Turns out, and just a little bit of quick Excel math here shows that this was wrong. I was dividing by the 1 plus the extra reload rather than just dividing by the actual reload time, which was a pretty simple mistake to make, although it really shouldn't have happened. Long story short, and don't even worry about that, is that when you go back to the game here, you're going to want to use the radioactive ignition or insulated charge capacitor, which gives you the highest radioactive reload. A few other honorable mentions here for radioactive reload do include things like the polonium accelerator, but that really doesn't help out enough here, and it conflicts with a few other things that Tier 7 want to put on, and a few other specials are floating around here that you could put on as a secondary weapon. The plus 66 is probably the second best. But the insulated charge capacitor is the way to go, and does give you an extra 30% combat speed, which is nothing to complain about. Now for these armor plates, you do have a few choices. As I said, the only things that kill you in today's game are ballistic and penetrative. Against the penetrative armor is definitely the way to go. Against the halo, things like evade won't help that at all. So penetrative, really, you need to have this on there. Now, against the ballistic, your options include things such as evade, which yes, would help, and I actually do not have agility system 4 on here at all, because while you can kill this thing, it has a ton of ballistic deflection, only critical hits hurt it anyway, and really this thing is just super strong. I don't really think you need evade. This thing can be killed by very, very top level players, but it's not very likely, and most of them just go for the timeout out of range win. So I'm throwing on ballistic armor here just to make it a little bit harder to kill, rather than dedicating an entire special agility system 4, etc. So this is my build here, and of course this thing may not be perfect. I only actually have one of these built right now as is, with the chain special shown. And the second one is going to be done in the next day or two, once I get a few tokens to put these armors on. Now I will have a few thoughts coming out about how to defend against this, which is quite an interesting thought. If you are interested, go ahead and go to YouTube, subscribe, find all these videos here. I don't post all of them to the TFC page and a few other places. The best way of finding them is just on YouTube. If you have thoughts and you disagree, you are more than welcome to share those. Like I said, I did make a mistake last time, so thank you tremendously to those who pointed it out. When I have one of those, I will always acknowledge that. If you disagree and think combat speed is better, and so conquest battery instead, you're welcome to have that opinion. If you think that you don't want to hurt your range anymore, that's great, you're welcome to your opinion. I'm not trying to force you and say this is 100% the best build. I'm trying to give a fairly good, actually hopefully a really good starting build to players and inform you about a few decisions that you can make and talk about some alternate specials. So this may not be the best build in every single scenario, but it should get you at least starting and should get you average players out there hitting bases. With that said, going to go ahead and say thank you to everyone whose name appears on screen now. These folks really make the channel possible. Anyway, and until next time, this is Derpy signing out, helping you be a better pirate.